maybe 5, 6 million to 20, 30, 40 million annually. Data engineering is the process of getting data from a source and taking it to a destination. My name is Olalekan Olaseni. I'm a data engineer, and this is the journey thus far for me. So far, so good. I've been enjoying it, and I would say this is what I should have started earlier, which I had started being a data engineer way earlier. And coming into tech generally, for those of us that don't have a computer science background or computer science degree, that you have to go through different fields. So I wish I had locked on to this data engineering earlier on. I wasn't always a data engineer, and so far so good. Since I started in analytics generally, it's been interesting. It's been fun all the way. Data engineering is the process of getting data from a source and taking it to a destination. Think of it like plumbing, right? If you're in a house, you want the good water to get to where they are needed and the dirty water to go out. So in an organization, the job of a data engineer is to make sure that data is available when it is needed, maybe for machine learning purposes, or for business intelligence purposes, or for ad hoc analytics. And it is the job of the data engineer to go and find where is the source of this data within the organization, and the whole building pipelines that bring them from where they are at the source to and transforming them into usable format, and maintaining good quality data and making sure it's readily available for the users or business users in this case in a very efficient manner. Yeah, I wasn't always a data engineer. I've been other things. I've been a game developer, been a graphics designer, UX designer. But I was a software developer when I switched to. I was a software engineer when I switched to data engineering itself. So I've not always been a data engineer. It's been 6 years or 5 years that I switched to analytics. There's definitely a lot, because when we talk about design, there is the design thinking. When you are a designer, you think about the user first and what will the user like, not necessarily what you like. So it has definitely helped me in my data engineering in terms of designing systems for the users and trying to understand the user's need. There are a lot of things that I borrow from my experience as a UI UX designer then into this. There are some, I know it's not the practical stuff, you don't do it, but there are some design theories that I still carry over to this my new field in data engineering. And because of that design stuff too, there's a lot of, the end product of data engineering is a lot of time is visualization, or maybe it's AI. So the visualization part too, it has always helped that I can critique a lot of visualizations and I can say, no, this is good, this is not good, this is good enough. I just think it's helps me to simplify my data pipeline processes. That's all. I think people not knowing what you do in the organization. A lot of times, you see that your budget just gets cut because nobody knows. Some folks management does not see the impact of your job, because as a data engineer, a lot of time we have to work from behind the scene. So while the data scientist, the AI engineer, the business intelligence analyst get all the glory, nobody remembers the data engineer. The funny thing is, all of these guys can't even work without the data engineer. But then sometimes you can have a company just come and say, what's the data engineer doing? Can have data analyst, and you can cut the cost. And sometimes some of this cost cutting doesn't necessarily you don't have impact on it in a broader sense. Like, there are certain things that you just have to do to get your job done. Explaining to organizations that they need to spend big money to have good data and to get good insight from the data is always very, very challenging. Working with the business, trying to understand what they need is another challenge. But I think the big one is not really the stakeholders not really clearly understanding what the data engineer does. This is the most challenging part, I would say. It's a very, so data analysts look at data and they get insight from the data. They kind of like interpret business answer question with their data, but the data engineer goes to build the whole infrastructure, the pipeline of getting the data from the source to wherever the data is needed. There are a couple of overlaps in terms of skill between the data engineer and the data analyst, but the data engineer builds the entire data platform. And there are several roles that are emerging, and in certain organizations you might have in some cases you might have overlap. My first job, I was a data everything. I was the data engineer, the data scientist, the business intelligence analyst, and everything. But as a company grows in terms of data maturity, and as you skill up to, we tend to specialize. You have data engineer and other roles. I mean, the champion or the ones most people know are data scientists, because AI, ChatGPT, and everything. No, you don't. You really don't need design background. You need to be to have a problem solving love for problem solving. Let me put it like that. Like, when you find a problem, you want to solve it. You're curious with helping people optimize their process. So if you are a kind of person that sees something that is already working and you are thinking of how can I make it work better, you're a good candidate for data engineering. It does have a lot of technical things. There are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of things that you learn because the field is constantly evolving. But you don't need to be a designer first or have some design thinking. It does help if you do have it. That's helped me a lot. But I also have colleagues who don't have a design background, and they are very, very good data engineers. Yeah, a lot. And I think that's one of the things that scare a lot of people away from data engineering, because it's even crazier because different companies have different data stack. And in this day of modern data engineering, everybody is moving to cloud. So that's why this is a question of, it depends on what your organization is using. But there are certain skills, let me put it skills, not tools now, that you need to have as a data engineer. You need that strong SQL, the analytical mindset. You need a very strong SQL skill. There are certain tools. There are a lot of tools that I've used. You need to know at least one cloud platform. There are a lot of other tools that I can mention, like Azure Data Factory, Azure Synapse, Azure Databricks. My favorite tool of them all: Snowflakes, Airflow, AWS Glue, AWS Redshift. There's just a lot of tools. It depends on where you find yourself, and the field is constantly changing as new technology is coming. And one thing I know is that you can't catch up with the technology. It's just not possible. Every year, there will be new tools that will be released, but there are some fundamentals that you need to know, like dimensional data modeling. How do you do data modeling? You need to have a very good understanding of how databases work, interaction between databases, things like API, having knowledge of API and stuff like that. AI is coming for our job as everybody, but my job will be the last it's going to get. I'm just kidding. I don't think AI is coming for our job like it's going to chase us out. No, there will be new job roles. There will always be people. I mean, as good as GPTs are, there is always that need for that domain knowledge. So it's that domain knowledge, understanding the business process that AI still cannot do. And most AI or most machine learning model right now, even the best of deep learning models, they are still very focused on, they are still very narrow. Like they can't do multiple things at the same time. For example, ChatGPT cannot go and buy you rice. So, I mean, and ChatGPT is not going to sit down with you at the end of the day and have a bottle of beer. But there are a lot of advancements in AI that has worked, and it complements our job. What I will say is that AI is not going to take over our job, but someone using AI might. Absolutely. 100%. There is no, while there are some drag and drop tools for, especially in the area of orchestration these days, there is no way you can run away from it, but you shouldn't be afraid. The coding part is actually the easier part. It's not coding like a software engineer or maybe a developer. It's not that kind of coding. There is a different kind of coding that you do, and it's very, very, a lot of time it's very repetitive, and you can it's actually not the hard part of the whole job, and it's once you get into coding, you actually like it. It's kind of addictive somehow, but it is knowing what to code. I mean, with GPTs and auto copilot and all these stuffs, coding is not really what makes you a good. Knowing what to code is more important than the coding itself. So things like having the business knowledge, doing requirement gathering, data modeling, designing a good architecture is far more important than coding itself. Using real life things. For example, if I want to explain data engineering to you now, I use the example of a plumber because all of us know what plumbing is or something. So I'm just using common real life things they can relate to, things that are easy to relate. And this is one thing that is very, very important also in our jobs, because a lot of times we are kind of like the bridge between the business, which a lot of times they are not technical, and the back-end engineer, the software engineer, which sometimes are the custodian of these data sources and stuff. So we need to be able to communicate what the business is looking for or what the business wants into the technical form that we need it, and other technical stakeholders that we work with in making our job a success. There is actually three in this category. There are three types. There is structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. Structured data is data that follows a particular format that has a well-defined schema. Like there is a particular name for the record. Things like things that is tabular. Anything you see in rows and columns, you are familiar with rows and columns of things. That's a very structured data. Semi-structured is the one that doesn't necessarily follow a particular structure, but it does have some structure in it. Then unstructured is every other thing. Everything is unstructured. Your video, your audio, photos, anything, maps and stuff. They are all unstructured data, and the difference is that structured data is easier to use for analytics. It's what most analytics engine want to use, and unstructured is just it's scattered, as the name says. Think of it like real estate. There are those estates that every house there look like, those government kind of estates that every house is looking like each other. Then there are those estates that, even though there is a clear plan, that the estate where everything is in, that every house look the same. If you have a row of bungalow, if you have a duplex, that's just it. But if you are thinking of another kind of estate, like all these estates where you just buy the land, you are free to build what you want to build, there is still some kind of structure. You understand? But it's not, your house does not need to look exactly like your neighbor's house. You understand that? But there are some structure, there is zoning, this is where you put houses, this is where you do things. Those are the semi-structure. Now the unstructured is our area. You can get to, you gotta have house here, you have shops there, you have everything is just mixed with everything, and that's the way I can explain it to you. Yoruba history, that's what I'll be doing. If I wasn't a data engineer, probably be shooting documentary about Yoruba history. That's it. But maybe making bags also and stuff with Ashoki. I'm a very cultural person. Maybe I'll be an Akewi. Again, it depends. It's a very big. It depends. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on the company you're working with. Because a lot of time, companies that have reached that data maturity level where they feel they need a data engineer, there are companies that are, and in Nigeria now, and it also depends on years of experience, you understand? So annually in Naira, you are looking anywhere between maybe 5-6 million to 20, 30, 40 million annually. So the 40 million are the very experienced one, but like I say again, it all depends. Then there is the global market that they pay in foreign currency. And it's also a good thing for it's easy for, with globalization, and let's say thank God for COVID, we have more opportunities opening up for data engineer. But a wise man will not say salary or video. I don't know if some people are comfortable saying that, but I don't go carry. Let me talk. But the HR people know how much they are paying the people. But I can tell you, it's very, very competitive. It's one of the highest paid area virtually in all of tech. It's one of the highest paid jobs in tech, and it's not just in Nigeria; it's worldwide. So if you know what the average salary of maybe someone in tech is, then you can have an idea of what the data engineer is being paid. But like I said, it all depends. It depends, and it doesn't really. Sometimes too, it's just positioning. You understand? I know people that were way more experienced than me, and were earning lower. It doesn't mean that they are not doing something. It's just there are certain opportunities that I got, and there are some network that I have built that allowed me to get to where I am. So a lot depends. That's another hard one for us. Most of the times, data. And I'm going to get into trouble with this one, because I know there is a lot of folks used to ask me then, where's your? I don't have a portfolio. because I don't need one. The truth is, it's a lot of things, and that's why it's a little bit hard for people to break into data engineering. Is how do you show your work? How do you show a project? A lot of times, most of this thing is just testing basic SQL skill and Python, and there is a way you communicate that someone that is a data engineer knows that this person knows what he's saying and this person doesn't know what he's saying. So maybe you will see some on GitHub, because you have to understand that this thing is very, very expensive. For example, if I build a whole platform in let's say I build a data warehouse project now from end to end, from extracting. I've touched so many systems that it's hard to put them together in one place and showcase it. Maybe if I show you a snapshot of my data factory that I use, but this thing is going to be consuming money. Cloud is money. Every time you are running pipeline, you are consuming money or something. So it's easier for data analysts, maybe data scientists, to showcase their work than a data engineer, because there isn't just one hub. I mean, you might have a couple of code in GitHub and stuff. I mean, GitHub may be a repository. I don't post anything on GitHub, for instance. I don't have, and nobody has ever asked me, show us your portfolio website for data engineer. Funny enough, when I was a web developer, I always get that. I always add a portfolio website of my own. I always showcase, this is my work, this is what I'm doing, this is what. For data engineer, you really don't need it, because, and I may get into trouble for this because some people may call for me, but I'm ready. I have a lot of friends that we've gotten jobs, and it's not normally. Because when you are working as a data engineer, especially as you are getting more towards the senior level, the recruiter or the business doesn't really care so much about how good can you write SQL code or something. It's more about understanding the business process and how can you help them solve it. What tools are you going to use? And because these problems differ from organization to organization, even within the same organization, there are different data problems, different data needs. Maybe as the field is evolving, we have a hub where you design stuff. It's easy for me to show you architectures that I've designed than that pipeline itself. It's just hard. It costs money. My Azure bill is still coming, and so folks will get high blood pressure just from thinking of that. So for someone to have that all on the cloud and be running money, it's not something that is just sustainable. Think of it as it's a set of let me just say, set of instructions that gather, extract data, transform it, then load it to a particular place. So you get data from somewhere, maybe it's from people's phone, one storage there is from one data source. The data source could be CSV, it could be a relational database, it could be storage, it could be S3 buckets, it could be a lot of things. Then you transform it, that process of you extracting it, taking it from somewhere and putting it in somewhere. And when you build that process that you can repeat, that you can now flow any kind of data through, that's a data pipeline. I know we use the word a lot, but once you have a system that is taking data from one place to another, that's a pipeline. So you must be a data analyst first before you become a data engineer. You must have a very clear understanding of the business needs, and you must have a very solid knowledge of SQL. I believe we do, and I remember, I mean, even when I got into data engineering, someone just served me breakfast that year, so I had a block. And when I say this, it's funny because it took some of my friends to bring me back into coding or writing, developing or anything, because at that time just to open my laptop was a big problem. Even opening the laptop. I've not really had one since I've been a data engineer. But when I was a software engineer, I used to get it. Like sometimes that it's like I run out of idea or something. Like I just don't want to do anything, and can find something else doing. But for data engineer, I think the amount of time we spend thinking about our work is just like a designer too. Like you can have a challenge, and this is one of the part that folks may not understand. So we might say we'll get this thing done in a week, and 3 days out of those this thing, we're actually thinking of how we are going to do it. So there is a period where you are just slouching and thinking of, okay, how am I going to get this thing done? And maybe on the 4th day, or when it's now the 4th day, now start the implementation itself. So there's a lot of planning that does go into it, but I just say I've not had a block since I've been a data. Maybe one is coming, I don't know, but when I was a software engineer, I used to have it a lot. Anywhere they are using data, anywhere they are collecting data, any company that is collecting data, any company that is doing anything, AI, analytics, anywhere. I mean, hospitals, banks, fintechs, manufacturing industry, everybody is using data. Data is the new word. So it just depends on the data maturity, because there is big data and there is small data. So where in an organization where they are using small data, maybe they don't need a data engineer, maybe a data analyst will suffice. But as companies' data needs grow, as more and more companies are looking to get more insight from their data, especially, thank God for GPT and and the advances in AI, especially the area of generative AI. Every company wants to, I mean, for some folks, it's even a marketing strategy that we are using AI. How many fintechs have you heard that you say we are using AI? Can't get to AI without passing through a data engineer. Data engineering is a very, very crucial part of having all those self-driving cars, all those sweet things that AI brings. Good communication skills. Like you have to be able to communicate with people, interact with them, trying to understand what they need, and interpreting those things into layman language. And you need to know how to do budgeting. You need to, because at the end of the day, business care about two things. And when I mean business, whoever is paying for all the cloud, all the services that you are using, care about, are we getting value from our data? And in terms, they care about the speed, the security of the data, and the cost. So you're talking about, okay, whatever you are doing as a data engineer, is it helping us in terms of speed? Are we getting our reports faster? Is our model performing better? And second is, what about the security of the data? If there is a data breach or a data leak, are we going to be in trouble or something? And then there is the cost aspect of it, in terms of, is it going to run us? Because data engineering, AI, or machine learning, these things are not cheap. They are not cheap. They are very, very expensive endeavor. So, and folks can easily get burned. So you need to understand how to even explain value for the business, because sometimes value doesn't really mean money right now. It may mean money later. So you need to be able to explain that to stakeholders, because they might cancel your department before you deliver it. Because I'm a data engineer, I will say PC. let me put it this way. I would say for work purpose and for personal use. So for personal use, I would say Mac, but for work, PC. PC. There is a lot of things. A lot of times these days it doesn't matter because a lot of the tools we use are on cloud. So the fact that you are using Mac won't give you an additional advantage. Just having PC, you are running all your stuff on cloud, Azure and everything. It really doesn't matter if you're using. So you just, it's more logical to just, because PCs are cheaper. But at the same time, we all want the bragging right of Mac. YouTube, there are a lot of blogs online. Just follow Uno Road. It's good to just, and don't pay too much for, don't spend too much in buying courses. You understand? Some of these courses, it's a new field. And one thing I would say is try your best to get an internship. An internship is, no matter the amount of training that you are doing, a 6 months internship at a real job is better. Even if it's unpaid, if it's paid, you're going to learn better. I mean, when I was leaving school that year, they used to say, whatever you do, try to work for a startup. Either the startup fail or they succeed, you will learn something. For data engineering or analytics in general, I would say try working for a consulting firm. That's one of those things that helped my career because you'll be exposed to a lot of things. And sometimes you might not even see the end of the project, but you will learn one or two things from that project because every project is a new project. So the truth is, you must have a very solid knowledge of SQL and that you must have a good understanding of the business, whatever business you're working with and the business process. The lie is that you must first be a data analyst before you can be a data engineer. There are people that, yes, while it is a common path for a lot of people to move, like transition to, I've also seen and I've worked with people that started out as data engineers.